Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Monchkinz Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Monchkinz logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. And welcome to my video guide on Selphie's Lost Chapter with Trabia in mind, part 15, and of course this will be in hard mode. Now before I begin this video, I would just like to let you guys know that I'm actually not gonna do a solo run of Selphie because I think it's pretty clear that she isn't really going to be able to solo anything by herself, unfortunately, in terms of like EX fights or even her own Lost Chapter fight, because she just doesn't have the brave shaving ability that a lot of the characters have. So what I've done is I will show you guys a duo run with just Selphie and Squall later in this video. So with that out of the way, let's start this video. Now as always, we'll start off with the weaknesses, resistances, and the abilities of the last boss, which are the Curl Assassins. So the Curl Assassin is weak to the fire element, doesn't have any resistances, and as for its abilities, it has two different stances. The first one is the upright stance, which it has Rake, which is a melee brave attack, Bite, which is a melee HP attack, Curl Rush, which is a melee brave attack plus an HP attack, Devastating Stab, which is a powerful melee brave attack, Dead End, which is basically it will increase its brave first and it will deal a group melee brave attack plus an HP attack. Next, let's take a look at its crouching stance, which it has Venom Down, which is a magic brave attack and can also inflict poison, and of course the turn rate down. Next is Assassin Blaster, which basically halves the target's brave, then do a magic brave attack. This has a low chance to paralyze and also inflict the max brave down debuff. Next up, it has Harmful Wave, which is a magic brave attack. This can inflict confuse and initial brave down. Next is Erase Shot, which is a magic brave attack. This removes the target's buffs without frames. Next, Acid Mist, which is a group magic brave attack, which again inflicts a lot of different debuffs, including max brave down, attack down, and speed down. And finally, Hated Cry, which it grants itself a attack up, defense up, max brave up, and speed up to itself. Now, the Curl Assassin actually has a low resistance to poison debuffs and is immune to a few debuffs, which are max brave down, attack down, and speed down. Okay, so now that we know the weaknesses, the resistances, and the abilities of the last boss, it's time to take a look at the general tips and guide. And the first one is to save about 60 to 70% of your abilities on the last boss. Now, in all honesty, this will really only apply to new players. As for veteran players, you probably will just, blast through this Lost Chapter. To be completely honest, the highest level, basically the highest difficulty level, is only about in the EX version, so you don't really need to save a lot of your abilities, but you do have to save a little bit. But I'm sure you'll probably blast through the trash waves anyway, and you will be able to clear this fight no problem. Next is to bring in the boosted characters such as Selphie, Squall, and Thancred. Other characters that you might want to consider are the Warrior of Light, Cloud, Furion, Tidus, Platinum Cecil, Zack, Agrias, Bartz, Ash, Sephiroth, Freya, Vayne, Laguna, Squall, Lightning Fran, Jet, Zidane, or even Golbez. Honestly, you can bring whichever level 60 character you have that has a level 60 crystal passive, and for the most part, they will probably do pretty well here. You just have to balance out your team and you should be pretty much be fine. Now as for the healers plus brave battery options, this really hasn't changed much. Of course, you got Selphie. Again, she is the boosted character in this one. You have Maria, Eiko, Lena, Yuna, Porum, Aerith, and even Kate Sith. And as for the summon, I would probably lean more towards an Ifrit, but you can definitely bring in Shiva as well for that extra speed if you really want to. Okay, now that we have gotten the general tips out of the way, it's time to take a look at some general tips for the actual fight itself. Now the first one is of course going to be for your friend support, and I highly recommend Squall. Reason being, he is a boosted character, so he would have boosted stats. He does splash damage, which is really nice, and therefore you will be clearing all the starter mobs, or if you do plan to use him during your summon phase, then he will do a ton of damage on both the bosses. Now the next tip is, this can be a strategy that you may want to consider, or you can do it sometime later, but summoning ASAP before you get debuff is one way to go around the debuffs. This is useful if you're not planning to bring Selphie or even Lena to prevent all the debuffs. And again, just remember, when you do summon, make sure your friend Squall is ready. Renzo Kuken will do massive 100% damage on both the bosses like I mentioned earlier. So you don't really have to summon ASAP, but I would highly recommend it if you're not bringing Selphie or Lena to block off any of the debuffs. They can be pretty annoying. Now the next one is, there is an enrage mechanic in this one. So if you kill one of the curls, the other one will buff itself with Hated Cry. Now personally, killing them close to each other is kind of the ideal situation that you want. However, you can still concentrate on one, therefore you're only dealing with one. And you can remove those debuffs if you really want to, if you have Vanille or even Faris in your team, if you really want to. Now my last tip just basically covers the stances. The upright stance is more of an aggressive stance and it will do physical attacks, while the crouching one is more of the debuffer and it's more magic based attacks. So just so you know what the stance really mean for this fight. So now that we're done with the general tips, it's time to take a look at some possible party compositions, and the first one is obviously going to be the boosted character team, which is made up of Selphie, Squall, Thancred, and I would highly recommend a Squall support, and you can again pick between Ifrit or Shiva for the summon. Ifrit is probably the better choice, seeing as the bosses are weak to fire element, but that is totally up to you. Now the next one I have here is the first video you guys saw, which is Selphie, Squall, and Yuna. And as you guys can see, you can actually just clear this with Squall. You don't actually need Yuna, but you can beat this with Squall and Selphie, no problem at all. This is again with a Squall support, and you can definitely bring in Ifrit or Shiva for the summon. Now the third team I have here is the Warrior of Light, the twins, which are Lan and Rain, and of course Squall. This is more 100% AoE, just do as much damage as you can while the Warrior of Light protects your team. And again, this is with a Squall support, with an Ifrit and Shiva for the summon. And finally, the last one I have here is Zac, Lena, Lael. Honestly, when I made this team, it's more so Zac can be the tank and can take all the debuffs, and Lena can just, you know, block off all those debuffs. Lael I put there because I feel like there's not enough DPS output, and doing a chase sequence is probably gonna help with that. And again, this is with a Squall support, Ifrit and Shiva for the summon. Okay guys, so we're finally at the end of this video, so I will give you guys my final thoughts on this fight. Well, in all honesty, this wasn't much of a fight at all. Maybe if you're new players, If you're a new player, you might have some difficulty with this, but honestly, this is probably one of the more easier lost chapters fights that we had. As long as you have something to block the debuffs or even remove the debuffs, for example using Yuna with her Isuna, is definitely gonna help you in this fight. Now you just have to remember that the upright version is more of the aggressive, and what I mean by that, it is the one that will be doing a lot of the Brave plus HP attacks. So if for whatever reason you can just cancel off the debuffs, you can just concentrate on the Curl Assassin that is upright. So yeah, overall I really didn't find this fight all too difficult. That's probably because I have either Selphie or even Lena. I didn't even end up having to use Lena, but having Lena here is definitely gonna make things a lot easier. And of course, having a healer when it comes to taking HP damage as well is definitely gonna help you out. So yeah, I would rank this Lost Chapter in the lower side of the difficulty scale. So yeah, I hope you guys feel the same way too, but that's just how I feel. But and again, if you're a new player, there are various ways you can go around not getting debuffed. Like I mentioned, using your summon earlier, and making sure you can, even if you can delay, that is another option here. So there you go, guys. I think I'll end the video right here. Please remember to click like and subscribe, and comment down below your team for this fight. I'm sure there has to be a variety of teams because we have a lot of characters that can actually clear this Lost Chapter. Leave them all down in the comments below. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and on Facebook at Monchkinz Gaming. This is Monchkinz logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.